Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and today we are going to be checking out my update for the Level Up Project Pan. This is a project that was created last year by Sofie Alexander. I will make sure that she is linked in the description box below in case you have not discovered her fabulous channel. She is absolutely lovely and she was kind of noticing, at least with her panning journey, and I'll be honest, mine kind of follows pretty similarly, is that when we were working on eyeshadows, especially in things like pan in every palette and pan those eyeshadows, quite often we tend to hone in on the specific shadows in those projects, leaving the rest of the palette somewhat neglected. So she decided to take those types of projects and meld them together, Franken, if you will, with the No Pan Left Behind challenge, and came up with this super fun project. And this is my first year working on it, and I'm so stoked about it. Last month we did Level Up, which means that I'm currently working on my level 2 and level 3 palettes, because you know your girl needs some variety. I cannot use the same palette every single day, so I've been rolling them in 2 at a time. And I feel like that's working for me. I have been nice and diligent about using my Project Pan palettes. Of course, I have other ones that I'm playing with too because I'm a lunatic, but my level 2 palette is the Geodes from Up Beauty. I really enjoyed this palette a lot. I am wearing it today. Earth Shine is one of the most beautiful eyeshadows I have, and I love it. This palette is really, really fun. The shimmer shadows in here are so sparkly and beautiful, and I'm really having fun with it. Now, in the close-up, you can see that I do not currently have any pan going on in here. With this being my level 2 palette, I need to use every pan at least twice, and I need to hit pan on 2 shadows. I am going to try to insert kind of some close-ups here so that I'm not just holding it up the whole time. But I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of nervous. As much as I have used each of these shadows, they're looking pretty roughed up, which is nice, but I'm not seeing any real discernible dips going on. So having never hit pan on any Up Beauty eyeshadows before, I don't really know how deep they are. It does seem like the mattes are pretty firmly pressed. The shimmers do have a bit of a creaminess to them. However, as you guys know, I do tend to use brushes rather than my fingers, so I don't know if that is going to make it harder or easier to hit pan, not sure. But let's talk about how many times I've used each of these shadows. So the first shadow in the palette is called Rock. It is actually the matte that I'm wearing today, and I have used it 5 times since our last update for a total of 8 uses, and there is like no dip going on in here. So I feel like we might be in ColourPop territory where they are deceptively tightly pressed and difficult to pan, so not sure. The next shade in this palette is called Crystal. I have used it twice for a total of 3 times in this project. Amethyst, I actually didn't use it all last month, so it's only been used once in total. Citrine, I used 3 times for a total of 4 uses. Peridot, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I didn't use this past month either, for only 1 use in this project so far. Being that beautiful, beautiful green, I just knew that March was going to be its time to shine, so I have no concerns that I will get at least 1 more use in there, probably more. The last shadow on this top row is another matte. It's called Clay. It's this really nice khaki color. I've used it twice since our last update for a total of 3 uses. Rose Quartz, which is the first shimmer shade on the bottom row, I've used 10 times. And again, no dip. To be fair, I typically do use it as an inner corner highlight, but I really thought with 10 uses, I would see at least some dip going on in the pan. It is a little bit more of a flaky type of shadow, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out. It's not my favorite in the palette, to be quite honest with you. I think when it comes to the shimmer shades, it's probably my least favorite, just because I do find it to be a little more tricky to work with, but it is still beautiful. The next shadow is called Agate. I've used that once since our last update for a total of 2 uses in total. Redondite, which is another matte in this palette, I have used 4 times since the last check-in for a total of 6 uses. Earth-like, which honestly I would want to use every single day, and I have to restrain myself to give some variety here. I have used this shade twice since our last update for a total of 3 uses. Lava, which is this beautiful, rich, kind of mustardy yellow matte, I've used 3 times since the last update for a total of 4 uses. And Terra, which is the brown matte on the end, I've used 3 times since our last check-in for a total of 6 uses over the course of the project. So in total, while I have been using this palette pretty diligently, each shade hasn't gotten a ton of uses, and I think the reason for that is when I use this palette, I tend to do pretty simple looks like this one today. I'm only using 2 eyeshadows. I used Rock as my only matte, and I used Earth-like as my only shimmer. So I am using it very diligently, but I'm really only using between 2 and 3 shadows per look, meaning that it is per pan going a little bit slower. I'm trying to get good use across the board on my palettes this year, so I'm trying to avoid just sort of honing in and like panning a look, so to speak. That's not who I am personally. I get bored pretty easily, but even still, the point of this project is to make sure that the entirety of the palette is getting a lot more use. So at the moment, I'm okay with spreading it out in that way, but we'll see as the project progresses if I find that I'm just ready to be off of that level and start kind of pushing in. I don't know if that makes sense or not. As I said, I am working on my level 3 palette as well. For me, I feel like this is a really good plan of attack because as we get into these higher levels and we're needing to hit more pans in palettes that for me are very lightly used, being able to kind of spread the love around a little bit, I feel like is helpful. We'll see in the long run, but my level 3 palette is from BH Cosmetics. This is the 1991 palette. And I think I said this wrong when I pulled it in the last update. This is a collab palette, and I don't know who this person is, but it's written here in cursive. And I think I called her Alyssa Marie. I think it's actually Alicia Marie. I still don't know who that is. I guess I could probably look it up, but this was a palette that I found at Marshall's. I have no idea when I purchased it. I just know that it came from Marshall's because the outer sleeve still had the sticker on there. But I know nothing of this palette, which is honestly a crying shame because the palette itself is really, really pretty. You've got some duochromes in here. It's a really interesting palette, and I'm not sure why nobody has heard of this. I don't know if it was around the time that BH was really kind of struggling really hard, and so they didn't put in any kind of marketing budget, which also makes no sense to me because why would you produce a palette and then not market it? I have so many questions around this palette, but it is quite pretty. I haven't used it as much as I've used my level 2 palette because again, I'm just bringing it in for some variety. The first shade in this palette is called Pixie. It is a shimmery duochrome. It's got kind of a white base with a gold flip. Really pretty. I've been using it predominantly on my inner corners. I've used it 4 times in total. I have not used Lullaby. I have not used Legend. I have used Ritual once. I've also used Illusion once. And I have not used Spooky or Alchemist at all yet. On the bottom row, Afterlife, this sort of matte cream shadow, I've used it 19 times. And you guys, again, no dip. Usually BH Cosmetics is a little bit easier of a formula. Not in this particular palette. This feels like it's formulated a bit differently than, for instance, their travel series is. So we might be in for a bit of a journey with her. Again, 19 uses on this, and it's still looking pretty pristine. Next to it is the shade Echoes. I've used that 3 times. Karma, which is again this sort of really grungy mustardy Dijon sort of shade. definitely up my alley. I've only used that one once, but I did really like it when I used it. I used Bad Liar twice. I've used Lovesick once. I've used Soft Spot once, and I have not used Safe Word at all. So again, I'm feeling pretty confident about where I'm sitting in this project so far. I would like to see in the next update some more just to the naked eye visible progress in my level 2 palette. I'm having fun using it, but also I want to make sure that we're, you know, we're hitting goals. That's kind of the thing with us panners. We want to hit our goals. So I would like to see some additional movement visually in that palette, even if I haven't hit any pan, which I hope that I have, but even if I haven't, as long as I can see visible dips and I can see that progress, I think I'll feel better. But it does make me nervous. Also in the BH Cosmetics palette, I would like to have used every shadow at least once by our next update, and I would really like to be able to see a dip in anything, because I think being able to see how long it takes to get a dip or hit pan here in Afterlife will be pretty telling for how the rest of this palette is going to go. So hopefully we can see some bigger progress next month. Are you working on this project? I would love to know what your level is at the moment and what palette you have working on, and if you've been enjoying it. And also, you can join at any time. So if this is a project that you have been kind of eyeing, I know I did nothing but stalk it last year, and I wanted to join it so badly. So I'm glad that I'm working on it, but you can jump in at any point. So if you want to, make sure you do, and let Sofie know. She really enjoys following everybody's progress, and she's just an absolute darling of a person. So check her out regardless. If you've enjoyed this video, I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe before you leave. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope that you're having an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.